Hi, this is 𝐈𝐍𝐬𝐢 from Pounding Pavement 101. Let's talk about dressing for an interview. Men, it's time to suit up. Let's not mess around with this. I know that you like your jeans. I know some environments you're going to be able to dress down, but if you're not sure what to wear in an interview, the best thing is to wear a suit, dress up. You can always ask them and see what they recommend, but otherwise, if you're job searching, you need to be prepared at all times because you never know when that perfect call is going to come in. And let me tell you, Amazon delivers fast, but not that fast. So if you get a call at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday and you have an interview Wednesday at 8 a.m., you want to be prepared. So you want to have 2 interview suits at all times because you never know when you're going to have be called back to the interview to the company 2 days in a row. So you want to be prepared at all times. Have different shirts. You do not need to spend a fortune on this. You can go and if you take a look, there are sales at all times. So look for the sales, buy something that you'll be able to wear, and you'll be able to wear it forever. You have a navy suit, you have a black suit, you're covered for any event moving forward. This is 𝐈𝐍𝐬𝐢 at Pounding Pavement 101.